it going? My name is Zaki. Most people in Cosmos know me. Led the launch of the Cosmos Hub. Worked on IBC. So for the last 2 years, co-founder of Sommelier Finance. Sommelier Finance is sort of a hybrid Ethereum ecosystem, Cosmos ecosystem project. I think we front-run that narrative by a couple of years. More and more projects are starting to do this. So what Sommelier does is we build intelligent, adaptive DeFi vaults powered by off-chain computation for the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. And now as the Cosmos DeFi ecosystem starts to become more advanced and mature, a lot of our learnings from the Ethereum ecosystem are becoming relevant here. We make the highest yielding ETH vault. We make a Bitcoin yield product, though I think Babylon Giant's Bitcoin yield product is going to be very cool. We make a stablecoin yield product. And a big source of our yields are concentrated liquidity Uniswap v3. When Uniswap was getting, Uniswap v3 came out, Sommelier was like in its early stages of building. And one like sort of funny story was, so Uniswap v3 comes out, it's 2021. We are building frantically. We like get all of the software ready. We have our smart contracts ready to interact with Uni v3. And before we go live, I ask our team to run a simulation, which is, if we knew the future prices, could we make money? And like in any market, if you know the future, you should be able to print money. And what we found was that even if we knew the future, on a lot of assets, we could not actually make money on Uni v3. So then we delayed the launch, launched other products, and eventually now have come to almost make about, like one of our most significant sources of yield is a bunch of Uni v3 pools. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works and what that means for concentrated liquidity coming to Osmosis. So I could not be more excited about concentrated liquidity coming to Osmosis. As a person who has been building and issuing assets in the Cosmos ecosystem and wanted to bring the never-ending question that Sommelier gets is, when can I access real yield ETH or real yield USD without leaving Cosmos? And we've never had a really good answer to that question because we need an order book or concentrated liquidity DEX to make liquidity available for these assets in places like Cosmos. And there was really, there were places like, we tried listing real yield USD, or we tried listing some of our assets on Injective. Weren't a lot of buyers. One person bought $4 worth. It was a huge sale. And we've with IST, we've made a lot of plays with Crescent. Hasn't moved the dial. Order flow is on Osmosis. Cosmos users love Osmosis, even though it's been terrible for LPs. That's what's mattered. And so this is like really opens up a whole new universe of possibilities. So yes, Osmosis has, having the most advanced DEX protocol in the world does not matter if users are not willing to show up and trade there. And we have seen time and time again that Osmosis is where users in Cosmos come to trade. Okay, so what did the launch of an adoption of concentrated liquidity actually do? It's a hyped, but it's like, there's a lot of hype, but there isn't a lot of detailed understanding. So before concentrated liquidity, it was impossible to trade to provide liquidity and market make large cap crypto at scale on chain. You still had price discovery for asset. Most of the trading activity for Bitcoin and ETH or any large cap crypto asset needed to stay on centralized exchanges. Uni v3 has allowed there to be quite a bit of liquidity on large cap crypto assets on DEX. So I expect kind of a similar thing today. There are Liquid staking tokens and stablecoins have also been hugely successful for concentrated liquidity. We'll talk a little bit more about the arbitrage opportunities that's created. And a lot of people expected sort of just-in-time liquidity, i.e. seeing a big trade come into the mempool and providing liquidity there where you have no risk of impermanent loss, like basically add your liquidity, the trade happens, remove your liquidity with flash plots. This does happen, but it's actually this does happen, but it's actually not as big a deal as you think. It basically only happens under like certain highly volatile market conditions that like this actually becomes like sort of interesting and profitable for sort of like MEV aware arbitrageurs. Like, you know, in that theoretical model, like the profits that Sommelier generates should be impossible, but they empirically exist. And basically, there are a lot more places where you can LP profitably on a concentrated liquidity DEX than you can on like you know, the sort of Uniswap V2 style DEX. So those are all really good things, but there are other realities, which is concentrated liquidity has made LPing on DEXs and specifically providing liquidity for large cap crypto on Ethereum a highly specialized affair. Like, our analysis of on-chain behavior is there are maybe 10 entities that provide liquidity for most trades that are happening on UniV3. This is primarily dictated by your cost of hedging your position. So when you are trading on the concentrated liquidity desk, you need to maintain a hedging strategy. That hedging strategy could use lending pools. The hedging strategy could use perpetuals. The hedging strategy could use options. The cost of hedging your concentrated liquidity positions on anything available in the decentralized world is pretty high. As a result, it massively reduces the profitability of providing liquidity. These 10 players, we've talked to about 5 of them, and what they basically do is they have over-the-counter exotic option liquidity that they use for their hedges that actually allows them to push their costs of hedging down sufficiently that they are actually able to generate like 30% APYs on like providing liquidity for ETH USDC pairs. So it actually can be very profitable. No one will tell you who their counterparty liquidity is for like very low cost hedges. It's like one of those, it's sort of like the secret in the game. And it's probably the biggest source of alpha that like people in this game have. I really wonder how this is going to play out in the supercharged liquidity world. Like, I don't know, I don't think any of those players right now have any presence in Cosmos that are providing, that are like, tapping into this like low-cost hedging liquidity. It's unlikely to me that any asset other than Atom, there's even a possibility of finding this liquidity, but Atom does have pretty wide market maker support, and so there's possibility for it. It may be that just, you know, we start out in a world where people are primarily hedging with perps, because there is perp liquidity for Atom. And things like Lavana and DYDX will kind of bring perp liquidity natively to the ecosystem. So, you know, it will be possible for people to be profitable. But the other thing to really understand about concentrated liquidity is it makes providing liquidity adversarial. So right now, when we, you know, are all getting wrecked on impermanent loss in Uniswap, in Osmosis pools, we're all getting wrecked together. No one has an advantage. If someone shows up and has a better hedging strategy and is able to quote prices more tightly, they are going to take an outsized percentage of the fees. So you could have a strategy that is working and generating profits, and if someone else joins the pool with a better strategy than you, your profits will decline. It's better for users. Users will see lower slippage and, you know, better trades, but it really turns LPing into this like, you know, very adversarial market. It isn't that adversarial right now because there are so few players, but like in a bull market, one would imagine that a lot more sophisticated players will come to the table. Another thing that is exciting to me is that like smart contract pools have become live on Osmosis. And smart contract pools are a thing that doesn't really exist today on Ethereum, in like Ethereum DeFi. There are a lot of projects that have like either recently raised money to build it, or you have Uniswap v4, which is essentially adding some version of smart contract pools. But it's really cool that Osmosis is actually now at the forefront, being like one of the first places where this is actually live and actually has a meaningful amount of order flow. From a sommelier point of view, we've been thinking a lot about what smart contract pools, Uniswap v4 hooks could do for us. And I think what we're going to see is right now, so like Uni v2 style was everyone's in the same boat together. Uni v3 style is now LPs are adversarial, but they're in the same pool. Now, I think what we were going to end up seeing is more pools that are customized for the strategy that a liquidity provider is using, that allows them to like specifically mitigate MEV, toxic order flow, basically order flow or like arbitrage order flow. Your ways of doing that can be programmed into the smart contract logic and paired with how you plan to provide liquidity. This is going to be, I think, this is like clearly the future of liquidity providing. It's going to make routing a lot more complex because rather than having one pool for, or like one pool and like a couple of fee tiers, you may end up with dozens or hundreds of pools eventually, where you have like one LP is the only LP providing that liquidity in that pool, and the pool is customized to their strategy. I think the other thing that smart contract pools allow you to do is you can actually start thinking of applications as a liquidity provider in itself, where its strategy is driven by the application. So like if you have a lending market or a stable coin, you can actually have the application running a pool that is specific to that application and providing liquidity not from the purposes of optimizing like decreasing spreads or optimizing liquidity or like generating trading fees, but in some way works synergistic with the app, like providing collateral management or liquidations. All of this stuff can now be done on Osmosis, and we're like way ahead of, as far as I know, any other DEX protocol in sort of having this come to life. So, as far as I know, Sommelier is the only decentralized protocol that is like a top 5 LP in any concentrated liquidity pools that operate at scale. So like we have this product, Real Yield USD. It's been generating 5% yield on stables, all from primarily from LPing on the USDC USDT pool, which is a really interesting pool. It's like one of the highest volume pools, and there's no one incentivizing liquidity for it. So it's entirely like profit-driven LPs that like bring, and so our experience with how do you actually be, and like one of the coolest things and sort of pushes back against this narrative that just-in-time liquidity is Real Yield USD is actually, like we rebalance maybe like once a day or once every 2 days. We adjust our positions, yet we're typically like a top 5 most profitable LP, and everyone who's more profitable than us is actually adjusting their positions way more. So just like better data and better analysis can actually really give you like sort of outperforming behavior. All right, so yes, like we use a lot of different strategies on our Real Yield ETH product. Real Yield ETH generates highest performing ETH vault. And then just like quickly to wrap things up, our architecture. And this is an architecture that we intend to sort of extend to the Cosmos ecosystem sometime in the next year. Which is we have off-chain data providers. They talk to a validator set. The validator set performs dynamic checks on any performed trade, things that you could never sort of check for in a conventional smart contract. We can simulate trades at the validator level, et cetera, and make sure that trades are safe. Validators can also step in if like a strategist disappears. Sort of mitigates a lot of potential risks of using a system like this. Then we use a bridge, either our proprietary bridge, Axor, and someday in the future IBC, to send these messages to smart contracts on these chains that then go out and execute the trades. Right now, all of our products are like single chain, so like the strategy is only allocating between DeFi protocols on that chain. It's starting to look like that might be a good architecture for Osmosis, but we shall see. So Yes. Concentrated liquidity, great new source of yields, is going to massively expand Cosmos, but it's going to change the LPing experience entirely, and we'll see where that takes us. Thank you very much.